I still remember the taste of rain the night she threw me out. No suitcase, no warning, just Alina's voice, sharp and final, slicing through me like a blade. "Get out," she said. No hesitation, no room for questions. And beside her, in the shadows, was her sister Tara. Arms folded, lips curled into that smug, victorious smile. That was the moment I realized love doesn't always die in fire and rage. Sometimes it suffocates, choked out by whispers in the right ear. But let me back up. Alina wasn't just my wife. She was a powerhouse, CEO of her own company, polished, untouchable. And me? I was the man in her corner. I was her calm when boardrooms tried to break her, her anchor when she needed peace. She used to call me that, her anchor. Every late-night coffee on the balcony, every whispered promise after a long day, she said I was the one thing she could always count on. Until Tara. Tara had always hated me. Pretty, spoiled, jealous of her older sister's success. She said I wasn't ambitious enough, that I was living off Alina's shine. I laughed it off at first, but slowly. Alina stopped laughing. The warmth in her eyes faded. Her questions grew sharper, her silences heavier. The seed Tara planted had begun to grow, and I could feel it twisting between us. And then came the night of exile. Alina didn't even look me in the eye when she said it. "Dawn had come back until you've reflected." Reflected on what? On lies Tara had whispered? On betrayals that never happened? I walked into the storm with nothing but the weight of betrayal pressing down on me. But here's the thing about silence. When you sharpen it, it becomes a weapon. That night, as the rain washed me clean of illusions, I made a choice. I would not beg. I would not crawl. I would not carry the shame Tara wanted me to wear. Instead, I would reflect. And when I came back, I wouldn't come back as the man they thought they'd broken. I would come back carrying the truth and a plan. And that was the beginning of a 3-week storm Alina and Tara never saw coming. When you lose everything, you learn quickly what silence can buy you. Time. Time to think, time to observe, and time to sharpen your pain into precision. The first week after Alina threw me out, I lived like a ghost. A cheap apartment, a mattress on the floor, nothing but the hum of the refrigerator and my own heartbeat keeping me company. But solitude has a way of stripping away noise. It makes you notice things, patterns, inconsistencies. Tara had always been careless. For all her manipulative brilliance, she left trails, digital crumbs, subtle slips, and I knew where to look. She had framed me with lies, but lies always need scaffolding. They can't stand without support. An old friend from my past life, someone who owed me more than a favor, worked in IT security. A single call, a quiet meeting over coffee, and suddenly the missing pieces of Tara's game began to fall into my hands. Deleted messages restored. Half-finished conversations reconstructed. And what I saw wasn't just proof of betrayal. It was a blueprint of Tara's ambition. She wasn't protecting her sister from me. She was isolating her, dismantling every pillar of trust Alina leaned on. Her endgame was clear. Once I was out of the picture, Tara would dig her claws deeper into Alina's company. A family empire reshaped around her. And Alina, she would believe it was all her choice. I remember scrolling through the recovered texts at 2 a.m., the glow of my phone the only light in the room. Tara's words seared into me. Alina doesn't even realize she's repeating my lines. By the time he's gone, she'll thank me for it. He's not husband material, he's dead weight. Each message felt like a blade, but instead of bleeding, I grew colder, stronger. Because now, I had what Tara never thought I'd find: evidence. By the second week, I had sat down with a lawyer. We didn't draft pleas or apologies. We drafted divorce papers, but not ordinary ones. These were built like a loaded weapon, clauses embedded like traps, designed to expose fraud, to protect me, and to strike if Tara or Alina tried to play me again. And then I waited. That's the hardest part of revenge. Not the anger, not the planning, but the waiting. Because timing is everything. Strike too soon and they spin the story. Strike too late and they bury you. 3 weeks. That was my window. 3 weeks of silence. And then, as if on cue, my phone lit up with Alina's name. Her voice trembled, softer than I'd heard in months. "Have you reflected?" I almost laughed. Reflected? Yes, on betrayal, on misplaced trust, on the day her empire would collapse from within. And I knew that day was closer than she could imagine. The lobby of Alina's company felt colder than I remembered. Glass walls, polished marble floors, and that faint smell of expensive perfume mixed with disinfectant. It wasn't just a building, it was her kingdom. And 3 weeks ago, I'd been cast out of it like an intruder. The receptionist's smile faltered when she saw me. She didn't ask questions. She just pressed a button, whispered into her headset, and said, "She's expecting you." Expecting me. That almost made me laugh. Alina thought she was about to watch me crawl back, desperate to prove myself, to apologize for sins I never committed. But she was about to learn that I didn't come to beg. I came to bury illusions. The elevator ride stretched forever. My reflection stared back at me in the mirror-polished doors. No broken man there. Just calm. And calm is more terrifying than rage when it's sharpened. When the doors opened, Tara was the first thing I saw. Leaning against the wall inside Alina's office, arms crossed, her lips curved in that smug, serpent smile I'd memorized. She looked at me like she'd already won. Alina sat behind her glass desk, dressed in her armor, a tailored suit, hair pinned tight, eyes colder than steel. She didn't look at me like her husband. She looked at me like an employee under review. "Well," she said, voice clipped, "do you understand the damage you caused?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I slid the envelope across the glass surface. Divorce papers. The sound of it landing was louder than any argument. Alina's brow furrowed. She picked it up, flipped through the pages, her fingers trembling just slightly. For once, she had no words. But Tara. Tara broke the silence. "What the hell is this?" she snapped. Her voice wasn't calm or smug anymore. It cracked, sharp with panic. "You can't just walk away." I turned to her, steady, cold. "Funny. I thought guilt needed proof. Should I show your sister the text you deleted?" The color drained from her face. For the first time, Tara's composure cracked. Alina's head snapped toward her, suspicion flooding her features. "What text?" That was my cue. I placed my phone on the desk, tapped play. The office filled with Tara's own words, recordings, screenshots, messages where she bragged about twisting stories, feeding lies, plotting to isolate her sister. The silence that followed was suffocating. I could hear the hum of the AC, the faint buzz of Alina's computer. Alina's breath hitched. She looked between me and Tara, the betrayal sinking in like poison. "Tara, tell me this isn't true." But Tara stammered, her excuses crumbling before they even formed. For once, her mouth, the weapon she'd always relied on, betrayed her. I stood slowly, the weight of weeks lifting from my shoulders. "You wanted me gone, Tara. Congratulations. But I don't crawl. I don't beg. And I don't stay where I'm not trusted." Alina's lips parted, but nothing came out. Tara's eyes widened with fear. And for the first time in weeks, I felt taller than both of them. By the time I walked out of Alina's office, I could feel the shift. It wasn't dramatic. No screaming, no thrown objects. Just silence. And silence in a fortress built on image is louder than any explosion. Tara's panic still echoed in my ears. She tried to recover, tried to spin excuses, but the recordings had cut sharper than any blade. Alina hadn't chased after me. She just sat there, staring at her sister like she'd never truly seen her before. That was enough. The seed of doubt was planted, and seeds grow fast in poisoned soil. I didn't need to leak everything. Just enough. One email forwarded to the right contact. One recording slipped into the hands of a board member who already resented Tara's constant meddling. Whispers spread like wildfire through the company. Did you hear the CEO's sister manipulated her? Apparently, her husband left after exposing her lies. If she can't even control her personal life, how can she lead a company? Perception, Alina's greatest weapon, was turning against her. I sat in a quiet cafe 2 blocks away, sipping black coffee while the world shifted in my favor. My phone buzzed. A message from my lawyer. First papers acknowledged. Her legal team rattled. Prepare for counterstrike. Good. That was the plan. I scrolled through the news feeds and there it was. A small leak on a business blog. Not front-page headlines, not yet, but enough to make waves in her industry. CEO's family drama raises. Questions about leadership stability. I didn't smile. Not yet. This wasn't about gloating. This was about balance. About showing Alina that trust broken has a price far greater than contracts and cash. By evening, I knew the cracks were spreading. A friend in finance called me. He'd overheard investors voicing concerns during a dinner, the kind of men who spoke softly but carried millions in their portfolios. Doubt had entered the room, and doubt is poison to power. But the best part? I hadn't done much, just nudged the truth into the light. The rest was unraveling on its own. As night fell, I stood on the balcony of my rented apartment, rain misting the air. I thought about the night she threw me out. The storm, the taste of betrayal sharp as iron. Back then, I was the discarded one. Now, she was the one cornered by whispers, by truth she couldn't contain. I whispered to myself, almost like a promise. This is just the beginning. The walls of Alina's empire didn't crumble all at once. They cracked, hairline fractures invisible at first, but spreading fast enough that everyone in the building could feel the tremors. 3 days after the confrontation, Alina walked into the boardroom with her usual sharp suit and tighter-than-steel posture, but her eyes gave her away. She was tired. Doubt clung to her like a shadow. And in the corner, like a vulture circling, Tara sat with a smirk she tried to disguise as confidence. The board had questions. Sharp, precise, cutting questions. Why wasn't this risk disclosed? Is your judgment compromised? Who exactly is advising you at home? Each one chipped away at the perfect image Alina had cultivated for years. Normally, she would parry with ease, turning criticism into applause. But now? Every glance toward Tara betrayed hesitation. The sister she once trusted was suddenly a liability sitting in plain sight. And Tara knew it. That night, while Alina retreated to her penthouse to lick her wounds, Tara began her counterstrike. She wasn't subtle. She never had been. Within hours, rumors started circulating. Not about her manipulation, but about me. Didn't you hear? He left because he was after her money. I heard he staged the whole thing. Recordings, fake texts, all of it. He wanted leverage in the divorce. Classic deflection. Shift the spotlight, poison the well. She even slipped a few lines into gossip columns through contacts she de-nurtured with the same charm she used to disarm investors at cocktail parties. But here's the thing about lies. Once the truth has already peeked through the cracks, the lies look desperate, and desperation smells like blood in the water. I watched it unfold from the sidelines, every whisper, every blog post, every anonymous source that Tara tried to push into circulation. I wasn't rattled. I'd prepared for this. While Tara played her sloppy game in the media, I doubled down quietly. More proof, more recordings, more carefully timed leaks. Screenshots showing her mocking board members, bragging about puppeteering Alina, even dismissing Alina herself as a useful shield. And then came the email. A board member, one of the old guard, sent me a message from a private account. No greeting, no signature, just 10 words that made my pulse steady and my lips curve. We know the truth. Sit tight. She's burying herself. For the first time in weeks, I slept without waking in the middle of the night. Not because the battle was over, but because I could feel the tide turning. The boardroom was colder than the air-conditioned chill suggested. Alina sat at the head of the glass table, shoulders squared, but her eyes betrayed the storm behind them. For years, that table had been her throne. Now, it felt more like a witness stand. Tara slipped into the room with her usual smugness, carrying a folder she didn't bother to open. Her confidence was rehearsed, but there was a twitch in her jaw she couldn't hide. Alina started without preamble. "Tell me it's not true." Tara blinked. "Tell you what isn't true?" Her voice carried its usual sugary defiance, but the faint tremor underneath betrayed her. Alina pushed her phone across the table. On the screen, one of the leaked recordings glowed. Tara's voice, unmistakable, slithered from the speaker. "She'll believe anything if I say I'm protecting her. All I have to do is feed her the right stories about him and I'll cut him loose. Then the company will finally be ours, mine." The silence that followed was suffocating. Even the clock on the wall seemed to hesitate. For the first time, Tara lost her smirk. "That's edited. Out of context. You know how people twist things online?" Alina's nails drummed against the table, each click louder than the last. "Then explain the texts. The ones where you called him a distraction. The ones where you said I was too blind to see straight." Tara's mask cracked. Her eyes flashed, not with guilt, but with something sharper, fear laced with fury. "You think he's innocent? You think he didn't set this up? He's the one leaking things, Alina. He's making us look weak. That's his revenge." But Alina's expression didn't soften. For the first time, her sister's words weren't sliding straight into her veins like poison. They bounced, faltered, struggled to stick. Doubt had finally rooted itself deep in her chest, and Tara could see it. Alina stood, pacing to the window. The city's skyline stretched endlessly below, lights blinking like silent judgments. "Do you have any idea what this looks like? Investors are nervous, the board is circling. My reputation—" "A reputation," Tara interrupted sharply, stepping forward, but her voice cracked halfway through. Alina turned then, her gaze colder than glass. "No, Tara, this was your game, and you dragged me into it." For a fleeting second, Tara's face betrayed her true self. Not the clever manipulator, but a cornered liar scrambling for air. She opened her mouth to fight back, but Alina raised a hand to silence her. "I don't know what's true anymore. But I know one thing. If you've been lying to me, you've already destroyed more than my marriage. You've destroyed everything we built together." Tara flinched, but Alina didn't give her the chance to recover. She grabbed her phone, walked out, and left her sister standing alone at the table. But here's the twist. Alina didn't call me. Not yet. Pride is a stubborn poison. Even as the evidence stacked against Tara, even as the cracks in her empire widened, she wasn't ready to face the truth that she had chosen the wrong person to trust. And that hesitation? It would cost her more than she realized. Tara wasn't used to losing. She'd built her entire identity on being the one pulling strings, the shadow behind the throne. But after that confrontation in the boardroom, the walls of her carefully constructed lies were closing in. For the first time, she could see it in Alina's eyes. Doubt. Not full betrayal yet, but close enough to tip her empire off balance. And Tara knew one thing about power. It didn't survive hesitation. That night, she sat in her condo, the city lights flickering through the glass walls like restless ghosts. Her wine glass trembled slightly in her hand, not from alcohol, but from fear. Fear that her sister had finally seen through her. Fear that the company, the one she'd been clawing her way into for years, was slipping through her fingers. So she did what desperate people always do. She went nuclear. She opened her laptop, her fingers moving faster than her thoughts. Emails to select investors, carefully phrased, designed to spark panic without revealing her hand. Whispered rumors about financial mismanagement. leaked projections showing exaggerated losses, screenshots, fake ones, painting a picture of chaos at the top of the company. By midnight, the fire was spreading. Traders in Hong Kong were already whispering, forums buzzing, anonymous blogs posting about the cracks in the empire. By dawn, 2 major investors had already pulled back their commitments. The company's stock price dipped before the market even opened. Tara smiled bitterly at her reflection in the dark window. If she couldn't hold power quietly, she'd hold it through fear. She'd make herself indispensable, because who else but her could guide Alina through a storm this devastating? But what Tara hadn't counted on was how fast chaos spirals out of control. By noon, reporters were camped outside the company headquarters. By evening, hashtags with Alina's name were trending, paired with words like fraud, instability, and collapse. The empire Alina had spent years building was suddenly bleeding in the water, and the sharks were circling. And me? I was watching it all unfold from the outside, silent but sharp. Every headline a confirmation that the lies Tara fed my wife were turning into poison for her too. The cruel irony was clear. In trying to destroy me, Tara had pulled the pin on a grenade that would blow up everything, including the very power she was so desperate to seize. But here's the question no one saw coming. When Alina's empire started crumbling, who would she run to? The sister who lit the fire? Or the man she threw into the storm 3 weeks earlier? The boardroom smelled of fear. Not the subtle kind, the kind you cover with perfume and polished smiles, but the raw stench of panic. Papers rustled too loudly, voices cracked under the weight of unasked questions, and every pair of eyes flicked toward Alina like vultures circling a wounded animal. On the wall, the red line of the company's stock chart plunged like a free-falling elevator. Every tick downward was another nail in the coffin of her reputation. "Ms. Carter," one of the senior board members finally broke the silence. "What exactly is happening? Are the rumors true?" Alina's jaw tightened, her hands clenched under the glass table. She had spent years projecting control, authority, brilliance. But today, her silence was louder than her words. Tara sat 2 chairs down, pretending to be concerned. Her perfectly painted lips pursed as if she too was a victim of this storm. But her eyes betrayed the satisfaction of a snake watching its venom take effect. Alina turned to her. "You said you had everything under control, that these rumors were baseless." Tara shifted, feigning innocence. "They are baseless, but perception is reality, Alina. If investors believe there's instability, it becomes instability. I've been trying to put out fires all morning." But Alina wasn't stupid. She was wounded, yes, but not blind. And now, under the harsh fluorescent lights and the weight of her collapsing empire, she noticed the little cracks in Tara's performance. The rehearsed tone, the carefully chosen words, the same kind of calculated precision she used when whispering poison about me. A memory hit her. My voice that night, steady and defiant, sliding the envelope across her desk. Funny. I thought guilt needed proof. Her throat tightened. Could it be that the man she threw into the rain had been telling the truth all along? The meeting ended in chaos. Investors demanding answers, board members calling emergency votes, the media circling like sharks outside. Alina escaped to her office, slamming the door shut, her reflection in the window staring back at her. For the first time in years, she didn't see the untouchable CEO. She saw a woman undone by lies, by pride, by her refusal to trust the one person who had never played a game with her. Her phone buzzed, a headline alert. Carter Enterprises faces allegations of internal fraud. She sank into her chair, her pulse hammering in her ears. And then, in a whisper only she could hear, she admitted the truth. "Tara, what have you done to me?" And underneath that question, another one rose, one that tasted like regret. "What have I done to him?" Alina slammed her office door shut so hard the glass trembled. Tara was already inside, sprawled casually in one of the leather chairs, sipping mineral water as if she owned the place. Her calmness only fueled Alina's rage. "Explain yourself," Alina hissed, pacing behind her desk. Her voice, usually sharp and commanding, now cracked with desperation. Tara tilted her head, her smile smug, unbothered. "Explain what? That investors panic too easily? That a few whispers turn into headlines? You know how this world works, Alina. It doesn't take much to tip the scales." Alina's hands gripped the edge of the desk until her knuckles turned white. "Don't play games with me. I saw those messages. Your words, your manipulations. He was right about you." The glass slipped slightly in Tara's hand. Her mask flickered, but only for a heartbeat. Then she leaned forward, eyes glinting with something darker. "Right. About me. Alina, you've always needed someone to blame when things fall apart. First it was your competitors, then your board, now me." Alina's voice dropped to a whisper, heavy with fury. "You wanted me isolated. You wanted him gone. And I believed you. God help me, I believed you." Tara laughed, a sound sharp and venomous. "Of course you did. Because deep down, you wanted to. You've always feared weakness, and he was your soft spot. I just helped you see what you were too blind to admit." Alina froze, Tara's words slicing through her. Her chest tightened, memories flashing. My quiet support, my steady presence in the chaos of her empire. I was never her weakness. I had been her anchor. "You destroyed my marriage for what?" Alina demanded, her voice trembling between rage and heartbreak. "Money? Power? The company?" Tara's smile widened, triumphant. "All of it. You were too busy proving yourself to the world to notice that I was always in your shadow. For once, I get to stand in the light, and if it means tearing you down, to do it. So be it." The room went deathly quiet. Alina stared at her sister, the girl she once protected, once trusted, once loved. Now she saw only a viper, coiled and waiting to strike again. Her phone buzzed on the desk. Another headline alert. Leaked recordings suggest internal betrayal within Carter Enterprises. Alina's eyes flicked to Tara, who suddenly looked less composed, her fingers tightening around the glass. "Looks like the world is starting to see the real you," Alina whispered. For the first time, Tara's smirk faltered. 3 weeks ago, I had walked into the storm with nothing but my silence. Tonight, I walked back into Alina's empire carrying nothing but the truth. The boardroom was crowded. Executives, investors, advisors, all buzzing with the fresh scandal plastered across every finance outlet. CEO manipulated by sister, marriage collapses amid lies. Headlines were everywhere. Stock prices had dipped, trust had cracked, and Tara, once smug and untouchable, now sat hunched in a corner chair, pale and furious, her power unraveling thread by thread. Alina entered late. No tailored armor this time, no cold mask. Just a woman who had built everything on control, now stripped bare by betrayal. She looked at me as though the room itself had disappeared. Her eyes searched mine, begging for something she didn't dare say out loud. I didn't speak, not yet. Instead, I placed a folder on the polished oak table and slid it across to the investors. Inside were the messages, the recordings, the screenshots. Proof that Tara had manipulated Alina. Proof that I was not the leech or liar she had been led to believe. The silence that followed was heavier than any words. The investors whispered, brows furrowed. A few glanced at Tara with open disgust. She shifted in her seat, her arrogance dissolving into panic. Finally, one of the senior board members stood. His voice was calm, but final. "Tara, you're finished here. Effective immediately." She shot to her feet, sputtering excuses, pointing at me, at Alina, at anyone who would look her way. But it was too late. The trap she had set was now her own cage, and no amount of venom could unlock the door. Alina's eyes glistened as she turned toward me. For the first time, her voice trembled. I was wrong. About you. About everything. I should have trusted you." For a long moment, I just looked at her. My heart remembered every late-night coffee, every whispered promise on the balcony. But my mind remembered the rain that night, the taste of betrayal sharper than the storm itself. "You taught me something, Alina," I said quietly, my words cutting sharper than any shout could. "That love without trust isn't love at all. It's just a contract waiting to expire." The boardroom was silent. Alina's lips parted, but no defense came. She knew. She had lost me, not through Tara's lies, but through her own choice to believe them. I stood, straightened my jacket, and walked toward the door. For once, I wasn't leaving in exile. I was leaving free. Behind me, Tara's voice cracked as security escorted her out, and Alina's silence was heavier than all the wealth in the world. Because sometimes revenge isn't fire or fury. Sometimes it isn't shouting or breaking. Sometimes it's walking away, letting them choke on the truth they tried to bury. When trust is shattered, silence becomes the sharpest blade. And walking away, without begging, without crawling, is the sweetest justice of all. What about you? What's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen or heard of? Drop it in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed the story. Your support helps me bring even more unbelievable stories to life.